better than steroids, getting lean and jacked by upgrading your metabolism, Peat style. We're upgrading it Peat style. Now, a little disclaimer before we get into the material. If you are not someone that wants the absolute most out of their lives, health, energy, looks, performance, longevity, the entire full ascension, then just close the tab. Just click away. If that does sound like you, welcome, dear viewer. Now, we're going to talk about how to get lean, build a genuinely elite physique as a side effect of elite vitality. We're going to use an energy-first approach, and this is going to be one of the most sustainable ways to do it. 99%, no one talks about this. We'll go through the entire step-by-step full protocol near the end so that by summer, we're going to be lean because spring is right around the corner. My name is John, by the way. I've been lifting for over 10 years. I'm not particularly genetically gifted or anything, and I don't do any steroids, and let's leave it at that for now. Who's this protocol for? This is for anyone that hates being average. This is for anyone that feels like they're not where they're supposed to be. And my guess is you've tried before, and perhaps you've seen a sliver of results, or you were even on for a while, but then things collapse and you're basically still not anywhere near where you're supposed to be. And so you want that elite physique that matches that potential. And this is not going to be a program, 1 week program, 1 month, 3 month program. This is what I'm going to share with you here is an entire system that if you do manage to integrate this system into your life, it's going to change everything. And this is something that for the longest time, theoretically, I've known about this, but I have never actually walked the talk. I've never actually implemented this. And since I've started doing this, things have started shifting dramatically. And so I'll go over a lot of stuff, but before we go into the practical part, the actual steps, I want to give some base here, some ground, so you actually understand. I want to go over 3 bottlenecks, major ones that everyone struggles with. And so only recently I've discovered the third one. I've known about this for many years. Everyone knows about these things. That's not the problem. You know, else 99% of people wouldn't look like shit if it were easy. Even though a lot of people that sell you stuff will tell you it's simple. Just do these 5 things. Just do this or that. We're going to go over the entire thing. Because the issue, it's not just the willpower. And it's also not just the information. It's also not just the lack of energy for those in the metabolic sphere, in the Peat sphere. A big part of it is direction. And that has to do with the systems directing that energy. And a big part of that has to do with identity. And you probably already know where I'm going with this, but to actually apply these things and see the change, that's a whole nother ballgame. And that's sort of what I've stumbled upon. January was absolutely garbage. That was absolute garbage month. This month, February, it's March 1st now, but February, I've been locked in real good. And yeah. So a little bit about my current progress. This was what I used to be, a 71 kilogram skinny sub 5 frame cell, eating about 2,300 calories a day and not even shredded. Like I had a little bit of a, what do you call this? I believe they call it I don't know, gunt or something. Hypothyroid, balding, stressed, and delusional, and not the good kind of delusional. However, he did have boundless potential. Then me here on the right, an 84 kilogram muscular, posture maxed, high tier normie on a good day with Chad-light potential. Just need the FME plus FMA and a very nice hair transplant. It's going to send me back about 100K. I'm currently doing a 15%-ish deficit at 3,000 calories a day, 37 Celsius body temperature by day, 75 beats per minute pulse. If you're like, why are you telling me this? We'll get into that. And if you do know why, then I salute you. Also, this guy has boundless potential. They both have boundless potential towards their ultimate self. Though I'd argue this guy has closed the gap a little bit more than this guy on the left. So, Basically, what you often get told is to simply eat less and move more. And here's some hacks to not be hungry all the time and have fun starving yourself forever. That's how you stay lean forever. Now, any retard can just starve themselves and get lean. It's not a difficult feat. The real challenge lies in doing it in such a way holistically that it's a side effect of increased energy demand or energy generation, I should say. So, not to say calories in, calories out isn't a tremendous, massive part in the entire process. We'll get into this. But the average person will think pretty much like this: eat less, move more. If you're low testosterone, just eat real foods. Sure, valid. Take these herbs, Tonkat Alley, TRT. If it doesn't work, you hop on TRT. It's I'm going to explain to you why this might be, the pros might outweigh the cons for some people to go on TRT, but for the majority of people especially those that want to max out their full potential, you don't need to hop on TRT. There's something better. The aristocrat mindset. Being fat is a symptom. It's not the problem. Calories in, calories out is just one factor. So what is the core of the issue? Let me give you a little example here. Where's the drawing thing? All right, let's draw. Let's say this is fat chud. Can I draw chud glasses? Wow, it's really difficult to draw with this mouse sensitivity. But chud is really fat. Wow. He's like 20% body fat. Like, he's morbidly obese, right? And he wants to lose fat. Now, the thing is with fat chud is that he currently eats 2,200 calories a day. And so he listens to the advice of his coach or whoever, YouTube, whatever, and now he dropped his calories to 1,700. Now, this amount of difference, how much is that? Like 20%? Well, a little bit over. That's okay. That's not the issue. Oh, and also he's going to lower his carbohydrates. He's just going to reduce those a lot. There's two issues here, and maybe you already know. I'll give you 5 seconds to name the two issues. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, if you said something along the lines of, well, his metabolism was already fried before he even started, and the second one being he basically removed all the carbs, that is retarded because it's going to freak up his hormones. If you thought along those lines, then yes, you are correct. You deserve a cookie or two. The issue here is that 2,200 calories a day is already super low for an adult male unless you weigh like, I don't know, 30 kilograms. I don't know, you get some kind of condition going on. But 2,200 calories to maintain your body fat is way low. That indicates you already have a fricked up metabolism. And the issue with a fricked up metabolism is that your hormones are also not going to function. Now, we'll go into what he should have done instead, because now he's also removing the carbs, and the carbs are actually thyroid favorable. They are actually one of the things that keeps the stress hormones low, not just cortisol, but also adrenaline, prolactin, serotonin, parathyroid hormone. It's not just about the cortisol. So he also removed the carbs, so we remove his hair, and that's what happens. If you remove the carbs, this is what happens. So I've been here, by the way. I've done this. I've literally done 1,700 calories a day. This was that period. Let's have a go. Yeah, sure. I looked cool. I looked nice. Pretty lean. The thing is, I wasn't even shredded. And the other thing is, I couldn't get leaner than this. I was eating 1,700 calories a day. I felt absolutely terrible. I couldn't go lower than this. Do I look good here? Lean? Yes, but it wasn't sustainable. I had to start eating again. I couldn't get leaner than this. Like, I'm not even that shredded. It's just not, this is around, I guess, 11%-ish body fat. So here's the thing. Excess fat is often a symptom of impaired oxidative metabolism. Low thyroid function, high stress hormones, polyunsaturated fatty acid accumulation, and poor glucose oxidation shift the body towards fat storage. There is no need to discuss these things like leptin or ghrelin when the appetite signals become dysregulated all downstream from low metabolic rate. We'll go into this in a little bit, and then we'll go into the actual steps and what you can do about it. But I want you to sort of grasp what's going on here if you don't already. And we'll get it a little bit more advanced in a bit. So if you already know what it's about, you might even get a little bit of an insight here, some value. So throughput equals capacity. Metabolism, if it's high, you get good cellular function, good cellular respiration. Your cells can actually convert the glucose, oxygen, and water into ATP energy, which means your body, all the functions in your body, your parasympathetic nervous system, the way you grow hair and nails, every little function you can think of, that is all regulated by the energy, the biological energy your body generates, which means good hormones, good androgens, protective hormones, lowered stress hormones, which means better physical functioning, better body composition. You make more muscle, you get leaner, better mental capacity, better performance. The output is good. If your metabolism is low, you got bad cellular, high stress, low T, you get chodification, you get clouded thoughts, you get worse output, you lose very precious things. For example, this is one example. Some people are blessed in that compartment genetically. So the difference here is between the normal, the Goyim grind set is that input is output, calories in, calories out. So that's the entire formula. That's not the full picture. You're going to go in the wrong direction if you follow this. Here's the metabolic energy first approach. Input, what you put into your body, is super important. The throughput, that in the middle, is a major, major component. And the output, everything you put out into, exercise, but also just everything you do in the world, in the environment, that's your output. Your calories out, calories in. But that throughput part, you cannot neglect this. All three are super important, but this is your rate of living. This is the amount, the food you ingest. How much can your body utilize effectively to turn that into energy? Now, this is a problem that most fat people have, and a lot of people don't realize this, but fat people are often energy starved. 99% of the time, it's not just an overeating problem. They are overeating because their body, the food that they put in their body cannot convert that food, break it down, and turn that into energy on a cellular level. That's why they keep eating. They're actually energy starved, and their body cannot convert that into energy, so it gets stored as fat. Now, if you're into Dr. Peat's material, you already know about this, but perhaps you heard about this a little bit. Just want to make it very clear to you. This is how the body functions. So I didn't draw this, but I had these pictures here. Imagine your metabolism like a fireplace. Imagine the fat chud at 2,000 calories a day. Well, before he was at 2,200 calories maintenance, but now he did this cut. And he lost a little bit of fat, but eventually he had to start eating again because this is starvation. His hormones went down the drain, his hair, bye-bye. Now his maintenance is 2,000, so it's 200 calories lower. So his metabolism, imagine the fireplace being metabolism, it's not burning anymore. It's not going. It's not functioning. So here's what we do. We add a very high nutrient, JERF, just eat real foods, diet. We take rest. We work on the habits, on the sleep, all the fundamentals, because this is where a lot of people also lose track. The fundamentals first. So we add all of that back in, and supplements are definitely a great, great addition, and sometimes even necessary. We'll get into that. And then you give yourself some time, you work on all the fundamentals, and slowly the metabolism starts going up again. The fire starts burning. So rather than removing more logs to keep that tiny flame alive, we're actually fueling the fire. And now the metabolism is running again. Your body's stress hormones, they've lowered. So it's like, oh, I don't have to hold on to this fat. There's enough so I can start burning again. It knows it's okay to lose that fat. I guess that's one way to look at it. Where does this lead to? Right, the fat loss fundamentals first. Now, 3 to 4 balanced meals per day is usually pretty darn good. 3 to 4 hours in between each meal. Your digestive tract takes about 3 to 4 hours to completely do an entire cycle to clear. Exercise at least twice a week. Once a week is fine too. But if you want to grow a muscle, the optimal frequency is at least twice a week. At least twice a week. You're not Mike Menser on crack and the entire pharmacy, basically. No, you're probably natural. And even if you're not, at least twice a week is a pretty good spot. High nutrition, essential foods. And this is just, you can't get around this. It's super important. We'll go into a list of what I eat weekly to get all the nutrients you need. Adequate carbs and protein, adequate daylight, adequate sleep. You know the entire drill, but have you actually implemented it? So fix the stressors, toxins, the gut, the mindset, all of it. Then once your temperature and pulse is sufficient, then you can introduce, I would say, a 10 to 20% caloric deficit. Now, I've been experimenting, and I think 20% is a great, it depends on how fat you are, right? If you are at 25% body fat, you can probably even go a little more than this, depending on your temperature and pulse. Now, this temperature and pulse is such a great way to see where you are at metabolically. And we'll get into this a little bit because I made a really easy tracking system that actually shows you where you're currently at. So you know, should I go harder in my cut? Should I eat more? Should I eat less? What should I do? Because you don't want to take a year to lose fat. I've tried getting lean on very high calories, and that doesn't make sense either. And a lot of Peters will think you need to eat 3,000 calories of sugar cubes a day, but that's not the case. Fat loss, oxidative metabolism, minus stress hormones. It's a little fun formula. You don't need to know this thing. All right, let's continue here because else it's going to take way too long. All right, here we get into the dichotomy of things. This is quite a shocker. You want the good news or the bad news first? Let's start with the good news, eh? All right, let me read this for you. I'll do it in Pete's voice. Although I had stopped using the saturate. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do this to you. Although I had stopped using the unsaturated seed oils years ago, and suppose that I wasn't heavily saturated with toxic unsaturated fat. When I first used coconut oil, I saw an immediate response that convinced me my metabolism was chronically inhibited by something that was easily alleviated by dilution or molecular competition. I had put a tablespoon full of coconut oil on some rice I had for supper. And half an hour later, while I was reading, I noticed I was breathing more deeply than normal. I saw that my skin was pink, and I found that my pulse was faster than normal, about 98 beats per minute. After an hour or two, my pulse and breathing returned to normal. Every day for a couple of weeks, I noticed that the same response while digesting a small amount of coconut oil, but gradually it didn't happen anymore, and I increased my daily consumption to about an ounce. I kept eating the same foods as before, including a quart of ice cream every day, except that I added about 200 to 250 calories per day as coconut oil. Apparently, the metabolic surges that happened at first were an indicator that my body was compensating for an anti-thyroid substance by producing more thyroid hormone. When the coconut oil relieved my inhibition, I experienced a moment of slight hyperthyroidism, but over the next few months, my weight was slowly and consistently decreasing. It had been steady at 185 pounds for 25 years, but over 6 months, I dropped to about 175 pounds. I found that eating more coconut oil lowered my weight another few pounds, and eating less caused it to increase. So this is an excellent example on how eating more can lead to losing weight, particularly losing fat. Super interesting. Now, this is a great example on how eating for health to optimize metabolism and thus hormones can change your body composition to hold less fat, even though you're eating more. So you can lose weight by eating more. Here's the thing though, a lot of people that follow Dr. Peat's work, the Peters, they will think that that means you should be eating 4,000 calories a day of honey or whatever, candy, and you're just supposed to have a supreme metabolism that's going to get you shredded. Now, here's the bad news for you. If that's you, fasters rejoice. No, I'm just kidding. He's not talking about fasting. Let's here it goes, okay? Hi.
First, stop eating for a while. First, stop eating for a while. First, stop eating for a while. Stop eating for a while.
Now, when I first ran into this clip, it shattered my PD-verse. Yeah. Let's listen to the whole thing.
First, stop eating for a while, and then go on a low-fat milk and cheese diet with a little bit of orange juice and an occasional egg and oyster.
Okay.
Calcium and vitamin D are supportive of the thyroid hormone. It's good to check your thyroid hormone and vitamin D if you're at all overweight, because a deficiency of those is extremely common and slows the metabolism. A high PUFA intake will suppress your vitamin D metabolism as well as your thyroid metabolism. So making sure those are good. And you want to lower the phosphate in your diet relative to calcium, and so milk and cheese as a staple of your diet will tremendously increase your heat production and energy metabolism, oxygen consumption, and make it much easier to lose weight. And then the foods, moderate amounts of egg, shellfish such as oysters, and some orange juice will provide essential nutrients and anti-inflammatory things that support your background metabolism.
I think that's great. That's like the first time I've heard somebody describe a weight loss diet that isn't purely focused on calories, but instead focused on still getting the necessary nutrients that your organs need to function optimally. But would you still say that calories still do matter? He said, yeah, like so eat less.
Yeah, but the difference is that a person who has been dieting very often will be burning calories at a rate of 700 or 800 calories per day, and so they get fat on just a few snacks. But when you shift over, making sure your vitamin D and thyroid are okay, but shift over to a high calcium to phosphate ratio in your diet, not much meat, not much shellfish, not much ordinary fish, but enough shellfish for the trace minerals. The high calcium to phosphate ratio and high protein relative to fat, with the rest of it carbohydrate enough so that you handle the protein and fat metabolism without stress. That will very quickly increase your calorie consumption from 700 or 800 a day up to the normal 2,000 per day, making it tremendously easier to lose weight. And as you stay out of the stress condition, your muscles are going to recover. You'll put on weight in the form of muscle as part of your ability to burn 1,000 or 1,500 more calories per day. So your muscles are then going to take over the continuing weight regulation.
And there you have it, folks. And a great example on how a lot of people in the Peat sphere will take things out of context. But yeah, actually stop eating for a while and focus on nutrients. I think that's great advice. And what he says, what you can see that he talks about is really focusing on lowering stress. He's focusing on nutrients from things like shellfish, oyster, super high in minerals, and the ratios like the calcium to phosphorus ratio. There's all the things like gelatin, the carb to protein ratio. Keep both high, but fats on the lower side compared to the other stuff. It's really interesting. It's all about lowering that stress hormone. And then he talks about how the metabolism starts running again. And I'm actually experiencing this because the first month of this year was quite stressful. I came back to Holland and it was dark, wintry. I wasn't used to it. And I just noticed I needed more food. So I started metabolic priming. I started eating more and I got back to 3,500 calories and I probably gained a little bit of weight again. But now it's been a few weeks that I've gone back to 15% deficit of 3,000 calories a day. And now the fat is flying off, it's slowly going off. And I notice my weight isn't dropping and my muscles, I'm getting so muscular. It's actually insane. So what he says about the muscle taking over the metabolism, or like the rate of metabolism increasing because the muscle mass increases, that is super valid. So this is it's not bad news actually. It is what it is. It's actually really good news if you don't mind it. All right, so the 3 major bottlenecks. Now, I will go over these in brief because else this thing is going to be way too long. So, that's fat chud. Let's start with information. Now, information used to be hard to come by. Like I mentioned here on the left, times where good info was hard to find. That is why I looked like this, because I had the wrong information. Nowadays, information isn't as hard to find anymore. Like, it's everywhere. There's still a lot of garbage out there, way much, but it's not the main limiting factor as it used to be with the internet and now the age of AI. However, a lot of influencers, whatever you want to call them in the industry, they will tell you it's incredibly simple, just do these 3 things. And those are, even I do this, 3 major bottlenecks. Like, it's not just solve these 3 major bottlenecks. Actually, it is. Yes, if you solve these, you're definitely on the right track. But the point is, this is an entire system. It's not like 1, 2, 3, and you're done, right? So you can make it sound simple, but it's incredibly complex. This is an example of just how things work. Vitamin C enhances iron absorption. Copper and vitamin D prevent iron toxicity. Potassium and sodium need to go together. Blah, 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 blah. Creatine makes your B2, B6, B9, and B12 more effective. Glycine balances methionine. Zinc can deplete copper. Copper can deplete zinc. B6 and magnesium, blah, 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 blah. Entire list goes on. So it's infinitely complex and beautiful. I don't know about the beautiful. No, I'm just kidding, guys. It's very beautiful. But the point is that, I don't know, there's going to be someone that's going to be thinking like, oh, just jerf, just eat real foods, bro. And I agree. That is the basis. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, it's not enough. It's not enough because even that is difficult, though. If you are to actually implement these things, to have a system that you eat your liver every week. Liver is cheap. To eat oysters, you can buy canned oysters. If you buy them in bulk, it's cheaper. They stay good for a very long time. So it is quite complex. That said, we can make it simpler with systems. And that's the third point. We'll get into that in a bit. What do we have here? Oh, right. This is Barbarian Wizard's Testosterone Kabbalah. Now, a week before he made this Kabbalah, I actually made an energy Kabbalah. I didn't post it. I should post. I am posting more now. I'm doing it. But yeah, he made a testosterone Kabbalah, and it's pretty freaking cool. Basically, nutrition, then the mitochondria energy stuff, maintain gut, maintain liver, support thyroid. Oh, liver is also so important for estrogen clearance. It clears estrogen. That's right. And serotonin, by the way. Oh, yeah, and you need T4 to T3 conversion. Keep serotonin low, keep estrogen, aromatase low, favor progesterone, keep prolactin low, favor DHT, keep cortisol low, testosterone expression, all the good things that make you masculine, all the androgens. Yeah, pretty cool. He's a funny guy. But before we get to the steps, I want to go over what is absolutely not, just to be really clear about what it's not and why it's not this. It's not just eating less and moving more. We went over this. That's this entire thing here that I've tried and trialed. It's also not eating 10,000 yummy treats every day and sipping on Coca-Cola all day. Because, yeah, we've just debunked, Dr. Peat just debunked the Peters on that. That said, like, you can still eat sweets. I eat sweets all the time if they're good. Like, I ate these coconut blossom sugar sweets yesterday. I ate like 10 and it felt great. It feels good. It's tasty. Sip of Coca-Cola every now and then is fine as well. It's also not hopping on gear. I'm going to explain exactly why you don't want to do that. I responded to this tweet here. It's 2026. You can literally just inject masculinity and no one can stop you. So I responded to this with, simply injecting tea is the best way to become a prematurely aged ogre. At the very least, you want to optimize for metabolism and energy first. Think of testosterone as a late-stage expression of energy availability, not the generator of it. So the upstream-downstream cascade is basically environment plus fuel availability. This is all your habits, your sleep, your foods, basically everything that gives you the energy on a mitochondrial level That's the next thing. So your cells can actually do their job. They can actually convert and make energy. The thyroid function, thyroid is basically the conductor, the director of all that energy in your body, where it goes. Cholesterol handling inside the cell, then pregnenolone, progesterone, DHEA balancing. And then after this entire stream, we have the androgens, testosterone, DHT, etc., which express themselves as muscle hardness, libido, mindset, voice, hair, confidence, etc. But as you can see, we have all these things before we get here, all these things that have to do with energy. So high T is basically a visible signal that the system already has energy to spare. If you inject it, you skip the energetic step so that you get fast muscle, but accelerated wear and tear, potentially, putting your hormones completely out of whack, aging speed on ogre maxing. You don't want to skip these parts. Now, for some people, the pros can outweigh the cons. Let me take Dan Coe, for example. I really like this guy. This guy is amazing content, really great mindset. However, he's on TRT because that gives him the fuel, the drive that he needs to function, which, that's all right. But this guy is younger than me, and he honestly shouldn't have to be looking like this at such a young age. And, I can tell he's on steroids. I can tell he's using steroids. If you have a trained eye, you can see it. And yeah, he looks jacked. But it's not how I want to look. I want to look mythical. I want to look elite. And not this. But maybe you do. And that's fine. Go hop on TRT. But even then, I wouldn't just hop on TRT. There's a ton of androgens you could use instead, together with protective hormones, so you don't burn through all your youth and protective hormones. How do I go back? There we go. So yeah, it's not free. Here's another great example. These two are amazing. Hormozi is insanely so skilled in what he does. It's just crazy. Such work ethic. And yeah, he's on TRT. They're probably both on TRT by the looks of it. Oh my gosh, she absolutely skull mogs him and face mogs him. Wider face, longer face. But yeah, they're both amazing. And the energy is funny here, though. Like, look at feel the energy here for a sec. You can see who's kind of like the masculine energy on this side. Oh, on this side is amazing. So anyway, yeah, they have a good dynamic. Let's say together they're a balanced pair. It seems very cool, very cool. I think these types of people are very amazing and unique. Need more of that. But yeah, they were on TRT. That's okay. It was worth for them because it got them to where they wanted to be. It got them things done. But there's a better way. It's not this guy here. It's not the 1,700 calories a day starvation diet. So I thought I was training really hard, eating less, moving more, but I was eating way too little, calling it discipline, destroyed my metabolism, actually cooked my thyroid. I was lean, but I was small. I had small arms. Like, honestly, these arms are not what they're supposed to be. But yeah, we've already been through this. I'll just, it's not about more effort. It's about the right direction. So I posted this a year ago. You don't need to go on TRT. You need to fix your thyroid. It's the underlying philosophy. But let's continue here. Because this brings us, now that we've covered the information part, and the information is there to generate the energy, right? So we've been through the information that generates energy. The important thing is to direct that energy. Because if you don't direct energy, that's complete chaos. Because inside whatever this place is, you have free will, whether you like it or not. And I know a lot of Peters are going to say, just focus on the energy first. And I agree, energy first. But what are you going to do with all that energy? You have to channel that into a purpose, into a direction. Before you throw a stone, you first need to know where you're going to throw it. Else it might end up through some window or some person or whatever. You don't want that. So this is the most difficult part, and this is one that I've been struggling with myself for the longest time. Now, I've watched a ton of self-help. Just watching that shit can be absolute procrastination. Absolute shit. You want to make it applicable, and not just make it applicable. You want to actually integrate it into your life. as soon as possible. And one of the things is to just show up, but another thing is very important to create a system and direction. You need to know where you want to go. And in order to go somewhere, you need to first know where you are. You need to know where you absolutely do not want to go. And you need a clear picture of where you do want to go. If you're not clear about this, you lack the direction and you're not clear about when to take action and when to pull out. So this is the deepest layer. This has to do with the story you tell yourself each and every day about who you are and how you relate to the world. At the end of the day, this is what separates the winners from the losers. And this identity translates to your mindset and all the cadence, the way you move and operate, all the layers that are holding you back from becoming yourself. What does your ultimate self look like? That's what this is about. And I will assume here you're not completely delusional, just slightly, which is even required. But you need to be very clear on the vision, on where you want to go, where you don't want to go, and where you currently are. And that is important because that allows us to create a system that is tailored to exactly the steps you need to take. For example, where you want to go and where you currently are, that gap in between, that defines your goals. So that is nice to know. But how do you actually make these goals, right? Because I've heard this before many times, but how do you actually make the goals and how do you make them stick? That's the most important part. But you have to, first of all, face it, be very explicit and clear about this. You have to step into that fire because that's the holy fire. The other fire, there's only two, you cannot be not in the fire. You're either in the holy fire or you're in the hellfire. Not moving towards your ultimate version is the hellfire. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. It's going to suffer. Step into the holy fire. It only hurts at the start, in the beginning, but once you get into that, it's actually kind of metabolic, and it's highly metabolic actually, and it's nice. It's nice there. And you've probably experienced glimpses of this, and you've been on, but then you fall off, and that's because of the lack of the third bottleneck, the direction. So let's get into that, but you have to face it. You have to face it, but fear not, because you are not alone in this dungeon, in these abyssal darkness. I am here, and we shall face the chasm together as brothers. I butchered that, but it's a cute little frog quote. So let's get into the nitty-gritty practical steps, because this is about getting lean and jacked. I know I made an entire thing, but getting lean and jacked is just a side effect of becoming who you really want to become, who you're supposed to be. Your ultimate version is probably not some fat bastard. He's probably really shredded, lean, and aesthetic. Unless you're some kind of laughing Buddha type of archetype. All right, let's get into it. If you want to go somewhere, you need to know where you currently are. So very first thing we do is track and measure. Sounds boring, and it's because it is. No one likes tracking and measuring unless you're into that, you freak. But in general, most people don't like it. Neither do I. So I've created something that allows you to not have to track every single day. This is just 3 days, 3 average days, where you track the following metrics. The nutritional intake. This is very important. You want to know how much you're actually consuming. So I made this little food tracker. So this is super useful. Welcome. This is an intake tracker. Goal is to find your real average intake, not what you think you eat. So we do that by logging everything, and you just talk to it throughout the day, or you can type it, but I talk to it and tell it what I eat, and you can just tell it what you eat. So it's very specific. If you're not specific enough, it will make sure it's specific, so it doesn't deviate more than 100 calories from what you're actually consuming, which is super useful, super easy. Then by the end of the day, it saves it, and it takes your average of that day, or like the total of that day. And then you do this for 3 days, and then you have your 3-day average, which is a pretty good measurement for what you're actually eating. I also have this vitals tracker, which is really nice, also just for 3 days. So imagine, guys, instead of tracking every day, just 1 week, the first week, the tutorial phase, if you will, where you just track these things so you know where you are. So your metabolic markers, where your temperature is at. If your temperature is below 36.6 in the morning and not above 37 in the afternoon, and your pulse is below 70, you probably have some metabolic issue, and you should really look at your average calories that you're getting from the intake tracker and see if you're not hypometabolic, if you actually have a dysfunctional thyroid, because then we can look at what are you not getting? What are your bottlenecks nutrition-wise? What are your bottlenecks like habit-wise? Do you have lack of sleep? Do you have too much stress? All these things. So things become very clear if you just take 3 days, the first week, just take 3 days out of them, or more if you want. But just 1 week where you dedicate about where you are. And that's all. And then these data points reveal your metabolic health status, and they provide objective benchmarks for progress tracking. So now you actually know. So next step is what we just already discussed a little bit, your vision, goals, and identity. But like I said, how are we actually going to, apply all these things? Because a 1 hour video like this guy, how to achieve more in 1 week than, what's the title? Oh my God, we're getting ads now? Hold up. Skip this. How to achieve more in 1 week than, I don't know what he says, but this is a 1.5 hour video, and it's a good video. Tons of information. Okay, we're going to stop this. Too much ads. It's a great video, but I'm not going to watch that anymore. I've watched enough of these videos in my lifetime. So what I did instead is I created a knowledge applier bot that's going to be in the Forge right here. Oh, don't want to show that yet. Now, this is not finished, by the way, but it's something I've been making, at least for myself now to use, but hopefully in the future for everyone. It's bugging out. But basically what it does is you throw in, for example, this video, the entire transcript. I actually threw it in here, and then I went through a deep session with my fake knowledge applier bot, fake psychiatrist, I mean. I went through a deep session, and he asked me a bunch of questions about what I want and what I don't want, what I struggle with. And it took me like 15 minutes, and the end result was an entire text that was so specific to me, so pinpoint accurate. And actually, I kid you not, I got a little teary-eyed when it showed me what I really want. And it also, at the end, it had made everything practical, what I need to focus on. For me, it's content at 70% good, because I have a perfectionism issue, a creative block issue, blah, 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 all these. I'm not going to go into my problems here, but the point is it pinpointed everything properly, and it gave me a solution, and it gave me some non-negotiables that I promised to myself to just do. And it's just absolutely beautiful because it takes away watching this 1.5 hour video that you're probably just going to save and feel good about watching, but not actually applying to your life. This actually made me a plan, because when I see a guy like this guy that we just watched, I just see a guy that scrapes a lot of knowledge on the internet, then makes good documents out of it and makes content out of it. So I don't listen to what he talks about. I look at what he does. And so I was like, I'm not going to watch your shit. I mean, it's good stuff, but you know what I mean. I'm not going to watch it. I'm going to create this bot that is now glitching in this canvas. But it works on the website. It's just this canvas is a little glitchy. Just go in the description if you want a link to this bot. I'll also leave a link to the prompt to it, so you can just use the prompt and make it yourself. Third step. The third step is nourish and eliminate. The fundamentals, these are super important. Sleep, nutritious food, movement, daylight. We've went through these things. You got to eliminate the stressors, the polyunsaturated fatty acids, inflammatory foods, toxins, bad people, situations, if you can. So if your gut is off, inflamed, sluggish, inconsistent, then remove the irritants first. This is one of the reasons why keto people can feel great at first, because you're removing all the inflammation, the FODMAP foods, excess insoluble fiber, alcohol, etc. So no supplement can fix a gut that's still being irritated. So let's have a look at what I have for you here. I'll leave a link in the description. Basically tells you all the foods you need. Is a cheat sheet of my weekly foods that I get that get me basically all the nutrients that you need. And here's a list of foods to avoid, foods that are perhaps tolerated. Just test your response, and there's very well tolerated foods. So each have their section. You can search them here. So Jerf, just eat real foods. Just pause the video here and look at this if you want. And maybe you already know all of this, but I will give you this. 2 very important things for me are weekly liver. I eat about 200, 300 grams of liver a week, just once a week. I don't particularly like the taste. And I have oysters now. I have a lot of oysters, like 2 cans, 1.5 can a week. Ratios, target macros. For me, it's about 65% carbs in general. a little over 20% protein, sometimes a little under, and I try to keep fat below 20%. Now, at 3,000 calories a day, I try to keep fat below 50 grams. Yeah, it's been hard at the start, but right now I'm craving more fruits. Spring is around the corner, and I'm feeling it's getting easier to lower fat. So it really depends on the season where you're at, but in general, this is a great formula to start shredding fat. The carb sources, it can be whatever you want depending on your gut. If your gut is very sensitive, you might want to avoid starches a little bit. All of this stuff is going to be in the food guide that is now glitched. Yeah, this is protein. Basically, you don't just want to eat red meats because you also want to have a little bit of gelatin to balance out the amino acids so you don't have such an inflammatory protein profile consumption, if that is a sentence. All right, then there's the supplements. This is basically my metabolic stack, entire profile with all the links. I'll leave this in the description as well. And have a look at that. Extremely good supplements, like an entire B vitamin stack, bunch of other stuff that have been very beneficial for me. Even the thyroid stack that I use. I have to say, I've reduced the thyroid a little bit to a quarter tab a day. So I went to half a tab a day, which is 12.5 micrograms of, I should say, 12.5 micrograms of T4 and 7.5 of T3. But I've split that in half once again. So it's only half of that. Regardless, that was the entire Nourish and Eliminate section. Then we get to the training part. Training, I'll keep this brief. 2 times a week is plenty for most people. Working every muscle 2 times a week to failure. I usually train to either 1 rep in reserve or 0. I go all out. Add a sprint session if you can, once or twice a week. Walking 5 to 10,000 steps a day can be a great form of cardio. So what this does, it reduces visceral fat. And so the fat so what this does is it reduces visceral fat, which is literally like an estrogen factory. Every gram of fat you lose means less aromatase activity, less estrogen. Same with muscle. Every kilogram of muscle you add basically increases the metabolic rate, directly increases androgen output. More muscle means more testosterone receptors, higher baseline hormone levels, and a body that runs hotter. This is basically my little formula if you want to simplify things. Intensity and frequency, I would say equal, but intensity equals frequency and then volume. High effort sets with great form, frequent recovered sessions, and minimum required volume. This, for me, has been a great way to slap on a lot of muscle, because I have slapped on a lot of muscle. Then we get to, where is he going? Right. I made a page for this as well, my intuitive split. Again, all the links in the description. This is just such a small little page. It's so intuitive and easy to use. The rules are very simple. I did an intuitive split video about this. You can just go and check that out. All right, reevaluate. Before we move on, we're going to reevaluate. Is your gut okay? If not, gut repair protocol. Sleep protocol. These are so essential. You're gooning all the time, never goon protocol. I'm just kidding, guys. It's okay. You can actually goon. Just let it happen and focus on the important things. Gooning doesn't deserve your attention. And when you stop giving it so much of your attention, it's going to go away. Just focus on the important things. All of this is basics. This is the tutorial phase. You should spend maybe a month doing all of this and be done with it. Have your entire system going. Once you have that entire system going, you can actually start going for real. So I'll go over this briefly. The form, really important. Your looks, the form, looks, physique, fat loss, posture, skin, hair. What type of archetype are you moving towards? Really powerful concept, actually. Archetype maxing is what they call it. I actually coined this before it even, like 3-4 years ago. But apparently it's a real thing now. Interesting. Identity, direction, it's your cadence, beliefs, purpose, intuitive living, becoming yourself. These are all super important. This is intuitive living and creating the systems that allow you to do that, getting these things out of your mind and into the world and actually building into an upward spiral, because you need to direct all that energy. Then there's the function or the performance, if you will. That's about raising capacity, going beyond what is just the basic, the fundamentals. And that includes dark peating. And yeah, and the environment, routine, systemization, environmentally as well as digitally these days. Super important. There's so much possible. And you don't have to know this. This is my fat loss formula. The thing here is that this looks incredibly complex, and that's because it is. But you don't need to know this. This is all baked into what I call the Ascension operating system. And it's going to be really easy to go through. It's going to be like a story you go through instead of this freaking, brain frying type of stuff. The advanced tools, that is, I'm not going to go over this. Just pause the video if you want to see that. But yeah, this is basically the energy Kabbalah that I made, and this is basically what we just went through. We went through the entire tutorial phase, which shouldn't take more than a month, like I said. And I think each of these should take no more than a month. So you got 4 months in total. I mean, it could be done in 3 months. Ideally, you take 3 months to 4 months, and then the end result is you get closer. This is more like a loop, but you get closer and closer to Ascension. So this is the wings that will carry you to the heavens. And this is what it's going to look like when everything is finished. Now, of course, I'm also going to have a light mode because spring is right around the corner. This is just in alpha right now, but one of the things that make leveling up towards your full self, your higher self, fun is like-minded people. And I used to have a chat, but in that chat, I would just be answering questions, the same questions about health and stuff over and over again. And there's also a lot of garbage talk. So I've reevaluated the situation. I'm going to relaunch a chat, make it super strict. Not necessarily strict, but I want a very clear vision for the chat. So I'll make it it's going to be Real Chat 2.0. It's a work in progress. This is like I said, the alpha version. All right, this took way long. I hope you enjoyed that. And I'm just going to post this. I one-shot at this. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe if you want to see the results of the labor. And I'll see you in the next one.